This is Rick Rule for Rule Investment Media and the Rule Classroom, co-sponsors of the Natural Resource Investment Symposium held July 7 through 11 in Boca Raton, Florida, or via live stream from the comfort and convenience of your own home. However you choose to attend, understand a few key aspects. The first is that we're going to give you 50 hours of intensive programming over 4 days, more than you can absorb. The consequence of that is that the recordings of the conference will be available to you for a year, and you'll need them to get your money's worth. Further to that end, we are interviewing all of our exhibitors and all of our speakers before the conference so that you have the opportunity to arrive at the conference well prepared to allocate your time and your capital. We urge you to pay attention to these interviews and reach out to the exhibitors before the conference. Understand further that every single public company exhibitor at our conference has been vetted by me personally, to the extent that if I don't own the stock, they don't appear on my conference floor. We turn down more exhibitors every year than we admit. So let's begin with the process. In today's pre-conference interview, I interview a friend of very long standing, Dev Randawa, a guy I've known for at least 3 decades and known him well enough that I, in fact, hired his daughter. Dev, thank you for many things. Thank you for your efforts on behalf of uranium investors. Thank you for contributing your daughter to our enterprise. Thank you, in addition to that, for your ongoing sponsorship and support of the Natural Resources Investment Symposium. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Let's get right into it. Let's establish some credibility for Dev Randawa. How did you come to be here? What was your career path? Do you know anything about uranium? Do you know how to spell uranium? Are you a Johnny-come-lately, or have you been here for a while?
That's a great question. I think it's funny that you ask if I can spell it. When I first heard about it in 1996, this idea, and I wondered what it was used for. And of course, as I did some work and saw this huge supply deficit, then actually you and Lucas, our late Lucas friend, educated me tremendously going back to 1996. And so I've been walking the mountains of Santa Fe, through the area of uranium, Mount Taylor, and now obviously we went to what's generally called Sadia of uranium, which is the Athabasca, which is much higher grades. But we've been there for 3 decades in that space, and so through that, there's been a lot of learning curves. But thankfully, we've been able to make 3 major discoveries, which is rare in our industry to have one. Nobody's made two. We made three, so that says a lot about our team over the last decade. And like in 1996, but in starting as the price of uranium started going through the roof, another smart friend of ours, Peter Grosskopf, said, let's split Strathmore into 2 parts. The Canadian became fission energy. Eventually, the U.S. portion sold to Energy Fuels. We, with fission energy, with the help of the Korean Electric Power Company from Korea, we made a discovery which we sold to Denison Lucas. We took those non-core assets and started a company, a spin-out, called FCU, which, as you know, at Christmas time just sold for 1.1 billion. So that was fantastic, and we've since then spun out another company called F3 and made a discovery which is called the JR zone, and which has got massive grades of 4.5 meters at 50%. That's like 4.5 meters at 25 ounces per ton gold, just to give an equivalent in today's prices. We've been doing this for a while. I'm very fortunate to have the same team that made the J zone in Waterbury at with FCU, our Triple R project, and now the JR zone in F3. So we've been very fortunate to be with the right team, well funded by people like yourself, the Sprots, and others, Red Clouds, that have given us the money in the right hands. They've been able to do some pretty fabulous things. We're very, very fortunate.
So the story here really is that you assembled some assets, which became part of Energy Fuels. You made a discovery, which was sold to Denison. Then the remaining assets made another discovery, which has now been sold off. And in effect, one could say this is your fourth as opposed to your third
True.
venture.
Yeah.
Tell us now about F3 and tell us about your latest related success. This would be your third discovery, really,
Right.
in the
It's
Athabasca.
our right. It's our
Tell
third
us something
discovery in the
about
Athabasca.
Tell us something
The
about what it is and what you're doing and why you're excited about it, why we should be excited about it.
Well, again, in real estate, it's always about location, location, and as you've always said, it's about management, management, management. We've got a very good management team. We have over $20 million in the bank. So, despite this downturn, we're well funded to move forward without heavy diluting ourselves. And more importantly, we've got a package of properties that are where I think the future of the Athabasca is the west side. And that's where Next Gen has their Arrow. Paladin now has Triple R, and about 13 miles away north is our discovery, the J Zone, which is pretty significant. Um, like I said earlier, we've had up to 4.5 meters of 50% uranium up there. And so that's significant. And now, about a week ago, about halfway to the Arrow and Triple R, there was another conductor that we've hit anomalous radioactivity on. So we have another a project that we are going to be exploring. So I mean the spot price is down. I get that, and people are worried about peace between Putin and Trump and what will be, but I think people are overreacting. It's not like any uranium that does come from Russia, which is Kazakhstan, goes right to China across the border. It's not like the Russians are sitting on a whole bunch of uranium they're going to dump in the market. And even the embargo is really not kicking in until 2028. So it's a perfect storm. When you hear Microsoft saying we're take all the uranium from 3 Mile Island. So right now, fundamentally, we're doing some really good things in F3, but it's overshadowed by the spot price being weak as it has been. But in terms of the company itself, we're well funded, well managed, and we have two very unique conductors that seem to make their way down to where the discoveries are. And these ponds are important because infrastructure-wise, there's a road that goes right through our project. It was built by the Saskatchewan government for Cleft Lake Mine. And so 365 days a year, you can ship things back and forth. More importantly, by the time we get to the permitting stage with our deposit, by then either NextGen or Paladin or a combination thereof will have a mill built and we'll have a place to ship it. So some pounds are more valuable than others depending on the infrastructure.
The thing that in the remote part of the Athabasca Basin makes pounds more valuable is grade. My understanding is that the median grade, and the Athabasca Basin produces the highest grade uranium in the world. The
Absolutely.
median grade there is something like 1.5%, the median produced grade in the Athabasca Basin. Tell us something about the significance of these extraordinary high grade deposits on the western flank of the basin, in particular, your own. Talk about the grades relative to the average mine grade throughout the basin.
Yeah, they're 1.5 to 2% the average in the Athabasca. When you look in Namibia, it's 0.1%, and Niger is even less, unless there are exceptions to all this. But generally, our grades at the Athabasca are 20 times higher than the rest of the world, and grade is king. Secondly, Saskatchewan is a very safe place to do business. They're not going to come in with guns like they've done in Niger and take out people and shut down your mine. So we don't have the political risk. It is slow, but hopefully a new government in Canada can move that process a little quicker. But it is methodical, but you don't run the risk of governments or worse, militia coming in and taking charge. So it's politically still, I think Fraser Institute still ranks at number one or two in the world. You've got these high grades. And for those in gold, like I said, this last drill hole, 4.5 meters of 50% uranium, that's like 4.5 meters of 20 ounces per ton gold. And it averages almost 1 ounce per ton. Imagine a place in the world of gold where the average grade was an ounce. Everybody would be there. And that's what, now, having said that, the uranium is always below the sandstone or some rock. So you can't take samples on the surface like you can in other places. You have to have a really good geoscientist. And that's been the key for us is having Sam Hartman, Ray Ashley, our president, that are the same geoscientists going all the way back to 2008 and 9. We made a discovery at Waterbury, which we, as I mentioned, sold to Denison. It's very key to have good geoscientists so we can get to these high grade deposits, which, you know, if you look at what's happened in the US, how many companies have said we're going to produce? They've had to revise their projections. In some cases, just stops, right, and we give up because the costs are quite high and you don't have any grade. But whereas in Canada, we have the grade.
So, Dev, really what we're talking about here is a team that's been serially successful in a neighborhood, the western part of the Athabasca Basin, that I think you rightly describe as the Saudi Arabia of uranium. We have a discovery, not big enough yet to be called a mine, but we have a discovery that's 20 times the average grade in the basin. And we have $20 million in cash. How much are we paying for all this? What's the market capitalization of F3?
Well, right now it's quite low. It's around 100 million. We've got about 500 million shares out because we've done so many spinouts, and we're stocks around 20 cents. So it's about 100 million we're paying for this resource. Others have said between 20 to 30 million pounds, and as I said, we've got large concentrated chunks, but we're paying about 100 million. That's the market cap of the company, and it's been as high as 280 million. You know, around 55, 60 cents. So it's at less than a third of what it was when uranium was higher spot prices.
And for that amount of money, remember that you get 20 million in cash. Dev, to the extent that our attendees would like to learn more about F3 in anticipation of the conference, who in particular should they contact and how do they reach that person?
And they go on the website and just put a note for Dev Randhawa. They'll get it to me, and I will email or call people. Like,
What's the web address? How do they do that?
well, we're at it would just be info at f3uranium.com. It's on the website, f3uranium.com, under info. Or if they can remember this, dev at rdcapital.com, DEV at rdcapital.com. And I'm happy to email, set up a call to talk to them. That's what I'm here for, is to, you know, like you always said, you're a contrarian or you're a victim, and these are the times it's hard to get people to buy stock because they see the black storm, you know, and they don't see the amazing opportunity to buy a stock at 18, 19, 20 cents that people were paying 55 cents for. So I love to talk to them.
Dev, thank you for 3 decades of service to uranium investors. Thank you in particular for 3 decades of service to this uranium investor, Rick Rule.
Thank you.
Thank you for contributing your daughter to the greater Sprott enterprise. And thank you in particular right now for your support of the Natural Resources Investment Symposium.
Well, thank you, Rick. I'm not sure I'd be here without you or Eric or Peter, and so I'm very grateful to all you guys. All right. Well, yeah. I went and saw Jesse and Tony